Hey, what's up crew? Aaron Biley here. Is your business and job recession proof? Because you would want it to be. Coming up, pretty incredible figures, pretty incredible times that we're seeing here in Australia. Not just in Australia, and some of 8 of the biggest economies around the world all suffering. So my question is your business recession proof? I know my traditional business in the gym and fitness industry, going back now 6 years ago since I got out of there, certainly was not recession proof. My overheads were astronomical. I had a lot of staff, a lot of risk, and it really required me to get in the trenches and get in there. And during the global financial crisis, people very quickly found out that they didn't need their $200 nutritional product. They could eat an apple and a banana, walk around the block for free, rather than going to the gym and having those expensive products. And so we certainly felt the brunt of that. And since then, have certainly moved into a risk-adverse, high cash flow, global new age business. If you look at the last June quarter figures, only a growth of 0.5% here in Australia. And to be realistic, we're basically in a recession right now. If it wasn't for government spending, propping it up, basically to keep it over 0.1%, we really would be in the negative growth range. The last year, just 1.4%. And if you have a look at the actual trend, if you have a look at the trend growth, it's actually 4 quarters in a row of below 0.5%. And it hasn't been that bad in this economy here since the recession of the 1990s. To put it in perspective, we're seeing some of the worst conditions right now this century. And so half the people, probably 90% of the population, aren't even aware of it, right? And so you never know what's going to happen. You don't want to have scaremongering and everyone go and put cash under your blanket and go under your bunker. But you got to prepare for things as well. You got to position yourself and be smart about it. It's not just happening in Australia. I saw a headline, was it yesterday? Is Trump going to have a one-term deal just because of the US economy? And one of the, you love or hate Trump, whichever one you are. One thing that he really did have going for him was turning the economy around and having US really pumping along, but now that's really come to a standstill and lots of stuff happening in their economy, which is the one big thing he had going for him. The government at the moment here in Australia trying to sort of say, yeah, it'll be fine, it'll grow again, we knew it was coming. Come on, 0.5% growth, most of it's government spending. Strongest sector was in the mining. And that's what I love what we do. We sold up most of our real estate properties, and I'm not saying to do this because I'm a big fan of Australian property in particular, because the majority of our population live in our capital cities along the coast. If you look at the US, there's so many houses available for their population. They live all throughout the country, inland, and they've got more houses than they have people. Here in Australia, we're not going to be living inland anytime soon, and so you've always got to squeeze coastal areas, capital cities, record immigration the last 12 months. I think we're always going to be pretty strong for the long term on property. The whole buy and hold thing is always going to be working, but it's not the 7 to 10 year double Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide. It's very, very much a pocketed place. It's suburb to suburb, timing, and you might have to hold for 10 or 20 years to see some real growth. But be smart with your buy. Like for me, investing in property right now, I will never buy a property at the moment. I want to get capital growth, but you just never know, do you? You're picking places that you think you can get your best capital growth. But I want short-term accommodation is incredible with what we can do now. We can put it on user-friendly platforms like Booking.com, Airbnb, and I can get a 25% better return, 50% better return. Sometimes, depending on the property in the area, 100% better return than I can renting. And so I want that short-term accommodation to pay my mortgage and some. So if I can get capital growth and positive cash flow in a property, that's how I would be investing today. And it's funny because I get negatively gearing and I get why people do it, but it's still taking money out of your pocket every single month. You can have capital growth. Who cares if you're paying tax on that cash flow? It means you're making money. And for me today, it's all about having cash flow, not having the stress, not having the debt. Because, if you have a look at interest rates when they were like 20% plus in the 80s, people were asking for people to pay 20, 30, 40% of their loan. I don't see interest rates going high anytime soon. So you've got that on our side. It's a great time to buy. We've got a little bit of a flat line happening with property. Interest rates are at record lows. But on the flip side, what's happening with the recession, the economy, people's jobs? I think people are really sitting back and watching to see what happens. But make no mistake, we are at some of the all-time biggest concerns of our economy growth. And I tell you what, if it wasn't for the government spending and the immigration, it'd be a whole lot worse. So that's why I'm positioning myself, and I have been over the years, for a business model that is low risk, low overhead. I can work from home, but I can have a global business. And this is incredible. About 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, when I saw a lot of the stuff happening here in Australia, some of our biggest businesses were places like China, Philippines, a lot of international markets where Australia was coming down. So to have that international business, it's like having a portfolio of shares. So when your BHP shares are down, it's okay because your Rio Tinto shares are up, or your CBD hemp shares are up and your mining shares are down. Having that portfolio, it's the same in business. If you can have an international portfolio of consumers, distributors, contacts, then one country to another country doesn't matter so much. So the short-term accommodation model, after the GFC, if you look at the property up here on the Sunshine Coast, they took a pretty big hit. A lot of the commercial property, high-end properties, some up to 30%, but it was around Aussie dollar completely plummeted as well. So now we're 60 cents in the US dollar. A lot of people talking about it could go down as low as 50%. And so during that time, a lot of people stopped traveling internationally, even though Bali's still pretty popular, but they have a holiday in Port Douglas or they have a holiday in Noosa. They've still got to stay somewhere. So it brought in a lot more internal travel, not so much international, short-term accommodation. People that own properties, if property prices stagnate, the equity dries up, what are they going to turn to? I need to get my best return. Short-term accommodation might be the answer. Better ring Aaron and Nick and get that happening. Entrepreneurs, executive people, they may not be secure in their job, traditional businesses drying up, they've still got that entrepreneurial flair that doesn't go away. I'm going to get involved in a new age business that doesn't have all these risks and overheads associated with them. Let me check out this new age business model. And if you have a look back through the trends of economies and struggling times, those models really do go through the roof as more and more people come out of traditional business and check out that laptop lifestyle, the low overhead business, which is really the way of the future. So I would be looking at these trends at the moment, and I would be looking at your job. Can technology replace your job in the next 10 years? Is there going to be any more downsizing? Traditional business, can people find an alternative and don't need your services anymore? What's your side hustle? What's your plan B? And what's your backup plan? And we're in those spaces. And look, if times are great, we go great. If times go bad, we still go great. And we don't have huge debt and overheads and risk, so we can cash flow, and we can do that in other countries around the world as well. I was talking to a guy in the Philippines today to set up his first Airbnb in the Philippines. So they brought a property over there, and it's one of the most expensive Airbnbs in the Philippines, 90% occupied. Incredible marketplace for what we're doing, not just here in Australia. Think Bali, think Thailand, think Philippines. So much scope, guys, if you just broaden the blinkers off, open your mind. And I know sometimes it can be daunting, something new. It's like learning a new language. If I just sat down and tried to learn Japanese tomorrow, I almost think, man, I just don't think I've got it in me. It's daunting, but when your goals and dreams are on the line, when your family's on the line, when your mortgage, your house is on the line, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and it's not rocket science. It's just learning a few new things. So think about it. Reach out to me if you want to learn a little bit about more new age business and what we've got going on, or you just want some information on what we think's happening out there. I love property. I love business. I love keeping my eye on everything that's happening and really trying to pick the trends and position ourselves. Either way, it really is the way of the future. So kicking back today, it's just absolutely sensational weather here, as per normal, although I say that, and it rained for a full week on my 40th, so not always great weather, but loving it up here and being very productive before we get on the road again next week running some events. Have a great day, have a great weekend, enjoy the kickoff of the footy finals tonight. Let us know who you think's going to win. If you think West Coast can go all the way, or they're going to knock Essendon out. It's going to be a pretty good weekend of footy finals. I'm looking forward to it. Nicole's birthday party this Saturday, so we're going to have some fun over here. I'll show you these. You probably can't see them actually. Nick's just brought these pretty cool tables. So can you see them? I'll turn the camera around. So there's a light in there. They're white, but they're kind of like a transparent white. So they've got a fluoro light in there, and you just turn them on and it blinks red, yellow, blue, green. So it's kind of cool for her Let's Go theme that she's having. So we're gonna have a bit of fun here Saturday, and we can get back into some work next week. Have a great weekend, guys. Look forward to catching up. Cheers.